I will assume everyone online can hear us. Michael, can you give us a thumbs up if you can hear? Perfect. All right. Let's get rolling. First order of business is the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
And welcome everybody to the February 2024 meeting of EGPOA Board of Directors. I'd ask our secretary to call the roll. Take us to our first voting item.
Tyler.
And here.
Alana.
Here.
Earl. Who's not here today. Dan. Here. Tom Gaddis. Lefton.
Here.
Joel. Here. Beverly.
Here.
Alex. Here. Zach. Here. We have four.
Great. All right, first item, approval of the January 21st, 2024 regular meeting minutes. They are tab 1 of your board members. Leslie had one change. Chris, you just want to describe that for the record?
Yes, on item 2B, the January minutes, which was reaffirming a vote that the board had already taken via email to approve the listing of 90 North Emerald. It was a quick roll call, and I didn't hear Leslie's affirmative on Zoom, so
There is Tom.
I added that into the minutes. So Leslie, that voted, you listed as a yes vote on item 2B, and that will be published.
And Tom, yes, just join us. Tom, nice to see you.
Good morning,
Good morning, Tom.
All right, so with that, any questions on minutes? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed, any recusals, any abstentions? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item B is the management and maintenance report. Michael's with us online if anybody has any questions, but there's not too much to report on right now. There are ongoing efforts to make sure that the swing gate at the front entrance, which has been having some glitches, gets sorted out. Seems to be working just fine. Worked fine for me this morning as we came in. And Michael has been spending a considerable amount of time working with water company in their rate case and working on some other issues around here, including our insurance renewal. So I don't think I've missed anything, Michael, but feel free to jump in if so. If not,
Nope, you're doing a fine job.
What about the floor from the gym? There was some markings or something with that. Is that a problem?
Joel asked, what about the floor in the gym? There are some markings. Is that a problem?
That's just with normal wear with them moving the volleyball stuff around and the pickleball court, pickleball net. They moved that out of the way to play volleyball and back and forth.
Yeah, I recall when we put the floor paint, we knew it was gonna not last as long. So well, we're gonna get to our insurance in a moment. We can talk about maybe this year if we ever have any extra funds, if that's a project we want to do. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, any other questions?
The back gate over there,
Yeah.
that's with code only, not the card, just swipe the card.
Michael, did you get a question?
Yeah, the back gate is a service entrance.
Oh, what? I'm sorry.
Service.
Oh,
Service
okay.
entrance. We have no cameras up there, Leslie, back there to see what's going on.
You can go out, but you can't come in.
Oh, yeah?
That's right. It's right in line.
You can go out, yeah.
Right, you can go out, but you can't come in that way. So you gotta come in through the front
Right,
gate.
right. Okay.
Opposite of the Hotel California.
I was just gonna say.
All right. Anything else for Michael?
I have a question. I think one of the fan blades is bent on the fan in entertainment, the
Okay.
orange one. And I noticed that it hasn't been on at all, so I'm wondering if they're aware of it, if they know about it. Sorry.
Sorry.
No.
Michael?
What was that? I didn't hear it.
Beverly's noticed that one of the fan blades on one of the fans in the main part of the entertainment looks bent, and that it hasn't been on in a while.
We are aware of that. That probably about 3 or 4 months ago that happened.
Okay,
They're getting, yes, it's being taken care of. Apparently.
all right.
And one more from Joel.
We moved the TV in the gym because there's one all the way to the right that's the people, you really, no one's watching it, but if you move it over, the people that are running on the machine and would have better use of it. So just, and there's an outlet, there's everything is set up for it. So I don't know if we were thinking about getting another TV there, but we can move the one over, because I think to the right of it, no one's, watching TV, because it's not set up that way.
I'll put that over to Chris or Michael, who I know have worked on that issue. I feel like every month we're wondering whether we should move a machine or a TV, but, I'm not making fun of your question. I don't know if there is an answer.
Move the TV.
Do people want the TV moved?
What I really do. So,
I thought we touched on that topic before.
we did, Scott.
We did.
And I think, Michael can speak to the specifics of the layout, but I mean, the reality is that the space creates limitations in how we can configure the layout, right? So people wanted the treadmills near the windows, which
Makes sense.
seems like a reasonable request. But if you have treadmills near the windows, then it's hard to crane your neck and look up at the TVs. But if you pull the treadmills back, then people are going to complain they can't see out the windows, or that it's going to block traffic flow through the rest of the gym. There's no perfect answer. It kind of just is what it is.
Well, I understand, but I'm just saying, it'd be easier if you turn your head up and still move it over.
We'll see what we can do about it.
Thank you.
I'll look at it and see if we can.
Just shift it over.
All right, thanks, Michael. We're gonna move on to the insurance, renewal update. Board members, I just sent you an email this morning, that I got at 7:43 this morning. Nothing's final yet. We don't have a firm proposal in hand. There's a couple of, pieces that are in flux, but suffice it to say, we are looking at a significant increase. Ballpark right now is somewhere around 40% for the entire program. Much higher than we'd hoped, and initially it had been, I don't want to say led to believe, but that we were hoping for, I guess. Biggest hits are, no surprise, on our general liability insurance. And without going into specifics, that's a result of claims activity, and the board knows what I'm talking about there. And our directors and officers liability insurance, the premium that is being quoted for that, currently somewhere in the $30,000 to $32,000 range, seems extraordinarily high to me. But again, it's a result of claims activity. Every time we get an aggravated homeowner who causes one of these claims, it's really dinging our insurance, and it's really harming the entire community. So, all right, I'm not gonna bemoan people for stuff, but
It's not just 40%, there's another option for 36%, so.
yeah, this is all, I just got this morning. I'm just kind of given the worst case scenario. Hopefully, they'll be able to improve on that. Not just price, there are improvements they need to make on some of the terms and conditions as well. We don't, can't walk around with, construction liability exclusions or something like that. So they'll continue to work on it. And while I hoped we'd have a proposal to put before the board to vote on today, that's not happening. So watch your emails this week. Our renewal is on Wednesday, I believe. That's our renewal date. So between now and Wednesday, we'll have to get the vote together by email.
Are there any change in the limits for the coverage, or?
I don't believe we are. I think we're gonna try to keep it the same. I will say Admiral, who's our current general liability primary insurer, they had decided to non-renew, but our new brokers have convinced them that with our improvements in the risk management systems, with our contract indemnities, the other stuff that we've done, employee trainings, that they're taking another look, and so they have quoted us, which is good news. But the limits, I think, are going to stay the same. Okay. All right. Let's go on. We're going to talk about rules and regulations. So picking up on something we talked about in January, Dan made a proposal to adjust the minimum age requirement for the entertainment courts and game room areas, not the fitness center, to lower that to 13 as an unsupervised or unaccompanied person. They can still bring guests, and we'd have to figure out the ID piece of it. We paused that discussion, paused a vote on that anyway, while we looked at a couple of different items. One being insurance, two being security. Board members remember, On the insurance piece, I did confirm with our brokers, that shouldn't really have any impact. We have waivers in place, we have our, indemnity language in place. So, it really won't make much of a difference from that perspective. I did not have a conversation with security. I don't know whether Michael's had the opportunity to do that. That was the other outstanding piece.
I did have an opportunity to speak to them. They were supposed to send an email. I just looking here as we're talking, I haven't seen it, but they're concerned that it was too young. You know, and some of the scenarios were that you know, kids at 13 were getting dropped off, you know, on snow days, and then it becomes more of a babysitting issue instead of a security issue. Most of the time, you know, of course, some 13-year-olds are older than other 13-year-olds. So that was their concern about it. So, but I don't have anything in an email from them.
Right. What do we want to do here, guys?
Just want to throw another, because I had a conversation with Brittany this week about pool waivers, because I gave her the QR codes for those. The pool is 16 unattended.
Yeah.
And what Brittany was explaining, because we have to re-access all the cards when people go into the season. And we were talking about the different categories people have for their cards right now. So you have the people who have all access to the gym, which is kind of like the adults that live here. And then we will have to, when we sign off the waiver, it will be if you're 16 or older, you have all access over there, which then creates like a pocket with the gym. 16 and 17-year-olds can go there. I think it would make sense to keep like the grounds consistent. Now that I'm thinking about this other piece, right? Because we're going to have everybody sign off that they could be at the pool unattended, like without an adult at 16, then you're going to have to, if you want to keep it to 13, you're going to have to create another pocket of access for the card readers. You know what I'm saying? It's not a big deal either way, but it's just cleaner.
I guess, so it sounds like an administrative add-on.
Like
It would
How
be,
many are we talking about? I mean, we have 2 dozen or so of these 13 to 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
And by the way, I point out, Brittany had sent me, I don't know if I shared this with everybody, the entertainment rules as they existed before the renovations, where I think 15 was the minimum age requirement at that point in time. I don't know how it got back up to 16, but it did. So I guess to address that point, which is a fair point, if we figured out what the volume is, maybe it's not that big a deal to manage that.
it would be an exclusive class just for those.
And I do think, I agree with Dan, I think that there's a difference between courts that are indoors like that, and just big open space versus the pool where, not just the dangers of a pool, but, you know, in the summertime, it's one of the busiest places around, and, you know, just from a member amenity perspective, I can see why that's a little, I don't know.
So are 13-year-olds playing basketball outside right now?
Yeah.
Not right now, but
Not mine. Well, they probably would.
The problem is all of that is now going to be card accessible as well. So all of our courts now are locked. You're
So
going to
you
need a pass to get into them.
Yeah, I don't know.
so I don't see why you wouldn't allow them access. They had access all these years to do these things, and now we're telling them no.
Hey, this is Earl. I got a question. How are outdoor courts controlled, access or not? If a kid has a bike, they can walk up to it. I mean, and unless the gate around the courts are controlled by a key card.
They are now. That's what Mike's making. Yeah, that's the distinction Michael's making. So, and to Dan's point, you know, currently, until the card readers start working on the outdoor courts, any 13-year-old and 10-year-old can go there and play.
Right.
And now with the card readers all coming online, even for the outdoor courts, they're going to be iced out.
Ooh, that's gonna be.
And
Yeah,
I think taking that one step further, not to speak for that, but I think the point is, well, if we allow them on the outdoor courts, why not on the indoor courts?
Well, it's exactly what you're like.
So can I just ask, I'm sorry, are you just asking to just do this only for every area except the pool and the gym? will stay 16? I'm confused.
Courts, literally the courts.
Yeah,
That's correct.
okay,
I feel like we have the information on the table.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
make a motion.
I apologize for coming on late. I'd only ask, and I'm kind of in the same mindset as Dan. Outdoor courts, to put constrictions on the age when kids can come, I mean, that I don't necessarily agree with that, because agnostic of age, as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 9-year-old, if you want to go to court and play outdoors and you can't, I mean, I think they deserve the same quality of life as we as adults do. And I think quality of life for a young person, male or female, should have some freedoms and some spaces that should be free. And I think an outdoor basketball court or tennis court should have more freedom than a controlled indoor space. That's just my 2 cents.
I would almost go the other way because it's at least supervised inside to a degree. Most of our security doesn't really operate on the courts outside. They're really inside. So that point is even mute. That's why I didn't understand why there would be any reluctance to let them inside.
There's an adult presence. They are not supervised.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. And there's other moving parts. I just, as someone who grew up on an outdoor court, tennis and basketball, to say I can't play at 9 years old if I come out there and shoot around because I don't have a key card, that again, kids deserve the same quality of life.
That's gonna happen.
I think it is a fact that over the last, half a decade or so, the demographic is shifted with a lot of younger families. There are more kids here than, back when.
More year-round living, not.
Yeah.
Correct.
Both the parents work.
So, but Dan, you want to make a motion or?
Yeah, so I like.
Well, I'm sorry, Dan. What is, do you want to give the kids access to the outdoor courts? That's great, and I agree with everybody on that. What is the big deal? You guys just got to figure out the age limit, and then we'll figure out the card access. If a 13-year-old is coming to play on the courts, they should have identification on them, because they're the ones, when people ride by and they see people playing on the basketball court, the first thing that I always get is they don't belong here.
Well, I think that's why what I'm asking for would help alleviate some of that, because now you have a pass to track.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Give them a pass. Give all your kids who want to use the courts, let them have a pass.
Agreed. All right, Danny, any questions?
So I'd like the motion to allow 13 and up access to our courts,
Unsupervised, meaning
unsupervised.
with whatever max. Indoor,
Indoor and out.
Indoor.
On the pass code, yes,
excluding the pool and the weight room, fitness center.
all courts,
Okay, I'll second that.
Excluding the pool, right?
Correct.
all.
In the gym.
Dan, I apologize. Can I ask one clarifying question before I vote? So that means that if I'm under 13 years old and I want access to the basketball courts outside, that means I can't get access to it?
Right now, the only way you would have access is if you have a code, a pass code, so we could probably do this and then figure out down the line if we want to do something extra.
For
to-
outdoors?
To resolve that,
Yeah, let's see.
Okay,
if it's-
all right. Okay,
let's see
all right,
if it's-
okay. Okay, I apologize.
Just doing it. It's gonna be 13 outdoor and indoor.
Yeah.
And all the
Yeah, that's the motion that Dan made.
I agree with that.
Clarifying,
With
they
that.
are or are not going to be able to bring guests, uncarded guests.
with this.
Same as
What are we
whatever,
limited? Like one guest, two guests? How do you do that?
whatever the current limits are. That would be my suggestion.
So they're assuming the responsibility of like an adult, like they can bring their little brother or sister.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if a 13-year-old brings kids from outside the community and they haven't signed that waiver,
They're not gonna know.
well, yeah, but what if they fall in crack?
Well, we can get the waivers when they get their card, and the waivers are, so we have a built-in fail-safe in our waiver system where when the member signs the waiver, you're also.
Includes every game.
Yeah. It's not foolproof, but
What about so who's signing the waiver, the parent of the
Parent, I'm
minor?
sure that's the child. Yeah, you can't have it.
So is
minor
that
sign.
still gonna protect since it's a minor?
It should, no,
Yeah.
for the member minor, yeah, I don't know about.
No, that's what I'm talking about, for the guest minor.
Yes, let's see, I hope, I mean, for the record, yes, of course.
So we have a motion and a second on the table.
I think we should, roll call. Fair enough.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Hunter,
Yes.
Alana,
No,
Earl,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes,
I vote no. Zach,
Yes.
Joel,
Oh, yes.
Alex.
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Beverly.
No. Sorry.
Motion passes.
All right, thanks everybody for tying that one up. All right. Let's go on to the financial review. Tab 2, your board books. Sorry, tab 3. Tab 2 is supposed to be the insurance renewal, but
all right, so, ready?
Yep.
Income last month was, above budget by $25,000. Property tax saw an increase with expense due to sewer billing. Taxes overall was over by 6,100. Pool expense was over due to quarterly billing on the electric, overall $1,600 over. Vehicles was over due to a significant expense in repairs on the 2018 F-350 we have, amounting to $5,000. Just did some, initial investigating there. I believe we could have probably shopped around a bit and saved some money, rather than using, the shop that we had. It seems like a very significant expense that I don't think we got, a fair price on it. Overall expenses, we were $102,000 under budget by $10,416.
Any questions for Dan?
Do we get the fund balance next time for December, so we know where we're at?
I think they come with Dan's email,
I
right?
sent everything.
In the email?
Yeah. They're Excel spreadsheets, so
Got it.
It's really annoying to read.
it's impossible to print out and put it in the workbook. Any other questions for Dan? Okay, with that, can you get a motion to adopt January 2024 financials?
My
Posted on the
motion.
website? Thank you, Leslie. Second? Oh, thanks, Dan. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Recusals? Any opposed, any recusals, any abstentions? Hearing none, that motion passes. All right, let's go on. The water company update, Alan, couldn't be here this, weekend, and, a couple of our other, EGPO or EGLLM board members could be with us, even though we have Alex and Zach here as well. But Alan asked that I just, briefly tell everybody that the biggest update is the rate case is progressing. Folks will receive that notice in the mail, with a potential, range of increase. That's just based on what the water company put in for their rate case. That's certainly not going to be the final number, as the, Public Service Commission works its way through, myriad information requests. And I've seen a few of those that Michael just shared with me, so that so that I have an understanding what he's working on all day. There's a lot of tedious information requests, that they're working through. So, I gather that process will take a fair bit of time, before they arrive at a final number. That's all I've got on the water company. If you have questions, unfortunately, I can't answer them. So, email, Michael, and they'll get routed to the water company board. Okay? Any board members have anything you want to pose to Michael on the water company side? Okay. Let's go on to committees. Lakes, Joey says there's no meeting. Public Hands, no meeting. For bylaws, we did not yet have a meeting. Earl, on oversight, I think you guys had to postpone your meeting, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. For strategic planning and finance, we had a really good meeting, and Two items that we want to update you guys on, are, an amendment, a proposal to amend the transfer fee structure, which the committee adopted and has been referred to the bylaws committee. This is tab 4 of your board books. I'm going to ask Chris in a moment to summarize that. And then after we talk about that, we're going to talk about this really cool project that the committee's come up with thanks to a number of members of our community, but especially Dan Woodruff and Mark Becker. This is a golf course adaptive reuse project. That's what it's being termed. That's kind of the landscape architectural phrase. What we're really talking about is, what are we going to do with the golf course property long term? The committee has voted to adopt preserving the area as a greenway. Basically what it is now, but with a low cost, low maintenance upgrade, and a way we can make that a real amenity. I'm not going to give away the lead, and Dan will present to us. We'll talk about that a little bit, but come back to the transfer fee and ask Chris to summarize. And I know you only got these board books last night, board members, but Chris's proposal, as it will be referred to the bylaws committee, and then the bylaws committee will wordsmith the exact language that we need to carry this out. It's not a debate about what the fee should be, just how do we make that fit within the bylaws and make that legally correct. Chris.
Right. So we'd like to take another look at revising the transfer fee. As Patrick said, this was passed by the strategic planning committee. It's going to the bylaws committee to get the appropriate language attached to it, because it would require a bylaws amendment. The next steps after that will be a board vote here to send it out to the community for a vote to change the bylaws. So the kind of short version of this is that our transfer fee, which is effectively a buy-in fee for the community, everybody who buys a property in Emerald Green pays a transfer fee at the closing table, which I believe is for homes is now a little over $1,700. And the short version is that the transfer fee has not been keeping up. The transfer fee has not been keeping up with increases in home values over the past 5 years. Over the past 5 years, home values in Emerald Green have almost doubled. They've increased by something like 94%. And the transfer fee has risen under 10%, I believe. And so what that means is, and I think members feel this viscerally, that our members are sharing an increased proportion of the costs of not only operating our operating needs, but also assessments. So the proposal the strategic planning committee approved is to change the transfer fee from a fixed fee. So in other words, everybody fixed fee, everybody buying a house pays the same fee, to change it to a percentage basis, which would mean that everyone buying a home or lot in Emerald Green would pay a fraction of a percent as a transfer fee. It would be 0.70% of the sale price. And that number had meaning. What 0.70% would do would reset the transfer fee effectively to what it was in 2019. In other words, in 2019, the transfer fee represented about 0.70% of the average home price in Emerald Green. So that, put it in plain English, what this revision asks is for new members of our community to pay what current members would have paid 5 years ago to join the community. So it's trying to reset and try to start to recoup some of this.
So have you done any math on some of the values that would equate to?
Yeah, thanks. So this would result in a significant revenue increase for EGPOA. It would double our revenue from the transfer fee, which would amount to about $50,000 per year, given projected home and lot sales. Just to put that in perspective, $50,000 is something like half of the increase in the operating dues that we faced this year. And it's more than 10% of our annual loan payments on the current construction debt. So this could help EGPOA out in a big way, and it'll potentially alleviate some of the burden that current members are shouldering. Put another way, current members are paying for amenities for that new members are going to join. And this is asking prospective members of the community to, when they buy into the community, to enjoy those amenities as well. There's a longer proposal, as Patrick said, which is in tab 4 of your board book. One of the reasons we wanted to talk about this today is to start socializing this with the board and get everybody familiar with it. It's not coming to a vote today. What I would ask is that folks read that proposal even before we get the bylaw language. And if you have questions about the details of it, please reach out to me or to Patrick. Happy to talk through the implications of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, there's some, what I think are helpful charts to answer the question you raised, and I'm not in the minds of most folks. You know, the problem is, as Chris said, that the transfer fee it's effectively, you know, gone down because home prices have increased while the flat number fee has remained the same. And you see that in these two charts, which to me really helps explain the problem, and how basically the transfer fee right now is much cheaper than it was in 2019, like half is cheap. And that should be reset, and it should be fairly reset, I think, at a percentage. And obviously it's, I think, fairer that it not be regressive, where somebody's buying a $400,000 house, paying the same amount somebody's buying a $1 million house. It should be a percentage. That seems to make a lot more sense, and I think that's what a lot of other communities with this kind of fee do. Anyway.
Do we have any substances, we're having dialogue, I just want to share.
Yeah.
Do we have a number? What would the transfer fee cost a homeowner looking to buy into Emerald Green for $400,000 versus now?
0.70% times $400,000.
No, I'm just looking, do you have a number?
Yeah.
Are you asking?
Because right now it's 1750, so I want to just share.
So the average home price in Emerald Green right now, over the past, in 2023, it's based on 10 months of data for 2023. The average home price in Emerald Green last year was $430,000, which again is almost double what it was 5 years ago. The transfer fee for a $430,000 home sale would be $3,010. And I would just say, lots of people in Emerald Green are already paying a transfer fee equivalent to this percentage. This is what the average homeowner was already paying in 2019. I had Brittany pull data on 280 home sales in the past 5 years. In the past 5 years, more than 80 current members of Emerald Green have paid transfer fees at or above that fractional percentage. So this is a fee that many people in the community are already paying. And I should underscore that. People purchasing homes on the lower end of Emerald Green home prices are actually paying more than 0.70% right now.
No, I'm just asking so that people are aware of what the price increase would be. And do we have any real estate professionals or anybody that we could talk to say, hey, would this hinder home sales in our area?
We can talk to real estate professionals. I think just, again, what I would say now is people have already been paying the equivalent of this fee for many years. So, you know, I think people, like, if I'm comfortable paying this fee.
Yeah, so I think it's helpful to understand that.
Yeah.
This is not a finance fee. This is at the closing table. So we're asking people to come in. So if I'm interested in buying or selling my home and I'm selling to another family, that family now would obviously have to have, you know, their down payment, pay the escrow and the taxes, and pay all of these other equivalents at the closing. Now we're changing it from 1750 to whatever that figure would be. Would that change the minds of somebody buying here versus going somewhere else and paying less at the closing table? That's what I'm asking.
When we did this, how many years ago? 4, 5? I don't remember. We did this once before, a round of this. We talked to local real estate people. The other HOA, not all of the HOAs are alike. Some get other services that we don't get. It's not an apples to apples comparison. We were low. We were relatively low compared to, but we couldn't compare us across the board because some people get snow removal, some people have their water included, but we were low.
But now, let me finish, Liz. Now, with the services that we have here, we far exceed the other communities. Other communities do not have an entertainment. They don't have brand new pools. They don't have a gorgeous beach. They don't have tennis courts and stuff, so.
And if you had a buyer that was gonna come out of you could take it off the sale of your home, you know, like there's.
Yeah, like
buy that. So, yeah.
Can I weigh in real quick, Mrs. Earl?
Earl, go ahead.
To answer your question, for someone who's contemplating in that real estate space, we are charging 0.75. And that is the standard. Now it's gonna vary based off of your amenities, but I don't think it's a question of ethics. I think it's a question of there are more amenities now than there was 3 years ago. So just like things have changed as it relates to those persons that may be interested in buying your home now are responsible for an additional, $1,750 now may be responsible for an additional amount. They're also getting more amenities. And so, I mean, that also needs to be taken into consideration, but you're more than welcome to speak to any real estate person and they'll say it's usually going to be 1.75. 0.75 to 1.25%, period. Agnostic of the value of the home. That's a standard.
The point of bringing this up is the transfer fee funding grows the more times we turn properties inside of this association. So the more times we turn the properties, we continue to grow in transfer fees, right? So if it's easier for somebody to buy in here, we get that money back in the fee. So if Beverly sells her house tomorrow, and then 3 months from now, that homeowner sells it again, that money doesn't go back, you're growing your fees. Now, if Leslie sells her house and she's reluctant to get a buyer, and I'm not saying that this is crossing that threshold, but this is something that we have to consider. When we find a buyer to buy that house, if they're reluctant to make the sale, because now it's another $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 at the closing table, you're going to hinder your transfer fees as a whole.
That is a bad assumption. No home buyer that's buying a house that's more than $400,000 is going to make the decision off of $3,000 to $4,000. That is not going to be a key driver.
That's not a bad assumption. If somebody had an offer on the table for $400,000 for a property here versus a property elsewhere, and we now ask for an additional $3,000, that.
I think we're also talking about Sullivan County, and I mean, I'm not saying anything horrible about the county that we live in, but we live in a nice area for this county. So I'm not taking your point lightly, but I just don't think for this area in this space that it's gonna be a significant problem.
Jen, I think you made the point that you have a concern about a change in the transfer fee impacting home sales and in the area. I take the point. I think others have tried to answer that concern. We can revisit that at a later date.
Yeah, we're not even at that point.
It's a fair concern. I appreciate you raising it.
Okay, I can tell you last night I met a guy that's building a house over on Lakeshore Drive over there, and he just like carried on, like he was looking around at different places and everything else. And he said, what we have here is far and above what other communities have. And I don't think it'll be a big deal for him to spend, he's spending a lot of money on a house.
All right, on that note, it's really just an update, and so, we'll come back once we've got actual language from bylaws committee, we can have a vote on it then. All right, want to move on to the golf course piece. Unfortunately, I don't know whether so Elizabeth is going to present.
And I don't know if that's still.
Well, that was from before, right? Yeah, we're gonna close it. All right. Elizabeth, are you ready to step in for Hannah?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Morning, thanks for doing
Okay.
this.
Yeah, I'm going to read something Dan wrote. So I'd like to share a little history and how the idea came about. The original owners of the golf course created the 9 fairways and a few sand traps, but it was never a fully functioning golf course. When the golf course was purchased by the POA, a committee was formed, and myself and another homeowner were the co-chairs. Together, we spoke with homeowners about what they would like to do with it, and a majority suggested doing something to keep it as natural as possible. The idea hatched itself as a nature walking trail with areas to relax, with benches, picnic tables, open areas for activities like kite flying, outdoor yoga, etc. To make the golf course safer, the use of vehicles and all electrical vehicles were eliminated and posted signs were posted. Fast forward forward to now, Chris Loomis and I are the golf course subcommittee to the strategic planning committee. And I'm happy to announce the idea to change the name to something more representative of what is envisioned for the future. The name Greenway. Let's go for a walk on the Greenway. Let's see what's blooming along the Greenway. So that's part of the beginning of the Greenway concept. And I think you, Patrick and Chris, have something more to share.
Thanks, Elizabeth. That's a great summary. And I'm going to share to the screen for everybody. This is the existing logo that sits at the pool house. And so the idea here is that the Emerald Greenway Preserve, exact name, the little TBD, but Greenway is definitely where we're headed with this. We want to build off the great logos that we've had before. And while the strategic planning committee will work through some details of the exact planning and all that sort of stuff, we'll talk about that in just a moment. The idea is that we're going to come up with a couple of logos, 2 to 3 logos that we can present to the community, and the community can vote on those. So rather than having a naming contest or a logo contest in and of itself, we're going to have a vote on the logo. And the idea there is twofold. One, it hopefully brings the community in, engages folks on this idea, gets them excited about it, because I really do think once this is executed, this can be yet another premier amenity for this community. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment, how we get to that point. But the logo piece of it, I think, is an important way to get people excited about it. There's also another benefit to a logo vote, which is that we are moving to electronic voting this year for our annual director election, and then later for our budget. As the board previously approved the vendor to pull that off for this year, we talked about doing a test vote. So this would substitute in for our test vote, right? So folks would have the opportunity to test out the electronic voting system by voting for a logo for the Greenway project. So I want to just share with you a couple of, can you do this? A couple of sketches that have come up. I think I have to unshare and then reshare. So sorry for this, guys. I'm not a Zoom expert by any means. Share again. And Dan Woodruff's come up with a couple of really nice, helpful, hand-drawn sketches that are conceptual ideas that, frankly, are really good and could be carried forward with little digital graphics help. This is just one idea, the Emerald Greenway. So you see that there. And then I will share one more idea. And this is building off of what we have in the community already and what we saw earlier. So here's another concept. Emerald Green POA Greenway. So I think it's also quite nice. Okay, so
Hopefully it's gonna be ugly. We're gonna go on these.
yeah, that's good.
We're gonna have that in. I like the second.
That's it there. And that's the beauty of it. The community will get the opportunity to vote for the logo. So as we think about this a little bit more, how are we going to get there? We want to make sure that we do this right, because if done right, we really do think this can be a property value add amenity for the community. There's actually a New York Times article on the 15th of February, as we were in the midst of considering all of this, talking about, and I can circulate that to all the board members as well, talking about adaptive reuse of golf course properties around the country. Most of them, if not any of them, were being done by HOAs. They're usually being done by public land trusts or not-for-profit organizations that are working with government entities. And these are on the order of 30, 40, $50 million adaptive reuse projects. They're massive, but these are whole 18, 36-hole golf courses. We've got a 9-hole golf course, but we still want to do it right, but with the very, very clear boundary that it be low maintenance and that it be low capital cost. So Chris and I have visited with one landscape architectural candidate so far. The idea is that if we spend just a little bit of money on a landscape architect who can help us create the master plan. Landscape architects are excellent at marking the boundaries, telling you where the trails should be, identifying the native vegetation, the native species, and all the other environmental and ecological stuff that should be going on in your preserve as you try to bring those things back to life. And then, you know, they don't have any hand in how the master plan is carried out. That's something that actually we're thinking we could do with a lot of sweat equity from the community and the Helping Hands Committee, and not have to contract much of that stuff out. So Chris and I had a Zoom last week with Laura Starr, who I serve on the Manhattan Community Board's Land Use Committee with. I'm the chair, and she's the co-chair. Laura used to be the director of landscape architecture for the Central Park Conservancy. She's the real deal. And she's doing another adaptive reuse project in the Catskills. And so she was pretty excited about it. She might come up for a site visit. And will present to us a proposal as well. We're going to talk to, hopefully this week, at least two other candidates, and see about proposals from other landscape architects. And we'll be, I guess, bringing that back at some point. I think and I'm doing all the talking, I want Chris to be able to jump in here in a moment, but what I want to do is move this to a board vote on allowing the committee to keep going with this concept. That this is, you know, a good idea, this adaptive reuse. We're basically taking what it's currently used as, putting rules and boundaries around the outside, and then just marking the trails and letting the native stuff grow back. And hopefully doing that with low cost, low maintenance. Low cost, low maintenance, can't say that enough. And so recognize that once we have proposals from the landscape architect, that's going to be an actual financial commitment. So we'll have to come back to the board to talk about those. We don't have those proposals yet. We don't even know what that ballpark even might be. But we can talk about that piece of it later on. Chris?
You go. I mean, we're looking for, I think what this board can do, you know, we've had other stuff going. We purchased the golf course a few years ago. We've let that property sit. And it's frankly, it's a potentially enormous asset to this community, both in terms of the use potential for members to enjoy it, and also an asset that will help lift property values for everybody. And so I think what we're looking for this board to do is to give some direction and to make a decision on the future path of that property and then how it will be used and developed over time, that other boards can, subsequent boards can follow up on.
And I want to share the screen also for our community members online and our board members here. Get this full screen. Here we go. Exactly what we're talking about. So there is, it's a total of 78 acres of property off of Lake Shore Drive South effectively and Wolf Lake Road, bounded by Lake Louise Marie and Old Sackett, with Lake Shore Drive East, the extension there kind of cutting through the middle of it. You have one larger 56 acre parcel and then the 22 acre piece over here. Things we'll have to consider with the landscape architect are the entry points, the main entry points. How do we make sure that only the types of uses that we deem appropriate get in there? So, you know, if we're not having ATVs, which are really then, you know, we need to make sure we have big boulders or bollards or whatever there to help control that access. There's also a question about, okay, can we, you know, do we do walking trails in the 56 acres and the 22 acres, or is there some other use of the 22 acres that makes a little bit more sense with the 56 acres? Way too early in the process to sort of figure all those details out. But the idea is that currently this is being used by people to snowshoe, do some cross-country skiing, or walking around in the winter. There's some biking, I think, that goes on in there. Of course, we know there are some uses we're not super happy about, we're trying to police as well. But really taking the walking trail uses, the recreational uses, and properly building those out so that people have a place to go. And it's effectively having our own, you know, private nature preserve.
So you won't allow ATVs through there?
We don't.
Because Mr. Tucker has a big issue during the summer with ATVs going right by
Yeah, I think that's,
Piccadilly.
So they're currently prohibited.
yeah, so
it's like-
I would imagine we would open that up. I mean, that's not consistent with what we're trying to do here.
Right,
Yeah, and for those property owners who abut the golf course, this, I think, would be an even bigger, add to their property values, because we're basically codifying, peaceful, quiet use. And listen, if I was selling a property right along the golf course, I would be absolutely highlighting that it abuts a nature preserve.
And Leslie, to your specific question, I think it's a great point. One of the things landscape architects can do is develop plans to control access more effectively, right? In ways that are not intrusive or ugly, right? But
Right,
like putting in things like, you know, big boulders and whatnot that
Yeah.
can limit the access of, I mean, I live over there, right? Like frankly, very noisy and environmentally degrading vehicles. So that's one of those values we can get out of having a landscape architect come in.
We were talking with Laura, what I thought was the greatest line. She said, you know, what are the things that normally happen in a place like this? You know, people are walking, people might want to do some exercise, which we talk about, like with sort of parkour exercise stations later on. And then I think our other line was, and teenage romance. That's that's probably true.
Access, or who's gonna control the access as to who goes in?
Details, I have no idea right now.
Because if I own the house and backs up to the golf course,
Yeah.
I don't want people walking, but what happens is, I have a friend, Florida, he's right on the beach. Next thing you know, everybody stops in back of your house.
I mean,
The
it's
same problem we got at the dam. No, forget what I said about Florida. You got the same problem.
Alex, I think it's a good point. I mean, I think that we're not gonna be looking at controlling access in the way that we do to the pool or to the entertainment. I think the focus, so a couple of things there. You know, first of all, there's a focus of what kind of use, right? So limiting access to things like ATVs, which can damage the property. And that's true for many of things. The reality is that the town of Thompson and the state of New York have lots of park spaces available here. There's a state park 5K down the road, literally just down Wolf Lake Road. There are town parks, in whichever way you drive. So, you know, I think reality is like, would an attractive property be something that somebody from the outside community might choose to walk in every now and then? Yeah. Is that going to have an impact? No. The problem is about use that is dangerous or damaging.
So I just think that we need to consider people that live on the golf course. And say, hey, listen, this is what we plan to do. We think that this could be a plus. What do you think?
yeah.
I think that, this is the first time some of us are hearing, it's the first time I'm hearing about it. I don't know that the process has been all that inclusive with the entire board of what we're discussing here, so maybe, you know, whatever we do, we can be more inclusive in sharing it.
Well, like any of our work, we do it in our committees.
In the committee.
So this went out, or
No,
I advertised strategic planning committee.
I did.
Anyone's welcome to join.
I tried, but there was no link. But anyway, I
It
know
was
that,
posted link to the meeting.
I didn't, I specifically asked, but the point is, if we could just make sure that these conversations with the star, whatever, are shared collectively, then I think that's.
This is what we're doing. This is the conversation we're having.
I don't know why the hostility there, Chris, but I'm just asking that we be inclusive with it, and that's it. That's all I
Okay,
have.
all right, cool. So with that, we would like to, and I'll make a motion, for the board to, approve of the committee's, well, the committee voted on this, so I'll just carry their motion forward, which is to approve the adaptive reuse of the current golf course property, into the concept that'll be known as the Emerald Greenway or Emerald Greenway. And preserve, is something we're getting some professional advice, should also be included in the name, but something along that line. I think we all get the idea that it's gonna be a preserve, that it's gonna be a greenway, and to be able to go forward with, the steps that we need to do to start coming up with a master plan for that. When it comes to the landscape architectural piece, of course, we're coming back to the board because there's a financial component to that. And then through our committee reporting, of course, we'll keep the board updated, and folks, please do attend the committee meeting. But with that, carrying the committee's motion, or committee's action forward in a motion here, it's to adopt and carry forward the concept of the Emerald Greenway Preserve Project
I'll second.
For the golf course.
for the golf course project.
I'll second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
You think, question, do you think we need to do a roll call on this one, just to make sure it doesn't come back? I'm 1,000% supportive of it.
It's just like a concept, right?
We're not really,
So I think the motion, so what I have written in minutes is, the motion is to approve the adaptive reuse of the golf course property as a greenway / nature preserve project. And direct the strategic plan committee to develop a master plan to support that.
Do the roll call. It'll be easier just to do the roll.
I'm just explaining what the motion.
Yeah. You know, giving a nod to an idea, I mean, we really are saying this is the committed use we want for this property, which it already is right now, I get it, but
So then why do we have to vote if it's just an idea, then that we can?
I'm saying it's not just a nod to an idea, it's committing that this is what we're gonna start doing with this property. We're gonna start taking some action.
just to get used to the property.
Yeah.
Approving a vision of property, not specific expenditures. So it's not approving any dollar figure attached to it,
Right.
it's approving a vision for the.
I guess we do have to understand that there will never be another signatures.
Exactly, that's it, that's exactly right.
That's exactly.
Nor are we gonna develop it as a pool or,
Patrick,
yes.
Lana,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes, sir.
you, Dan, no. Oh, yes. Zach.
Yes.
Joel.
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
Leslie.
Abstain,
Tom. Tom said no.
I'm left,
Beverly.
yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you all. All right, for the events and welcoming, I understand it was a meeting, correct? Okay. So be on the lookout, folks, for March meetings of other committees. Our next regular meeting is St. Patrick's Day, March 17th.
I'll be drunk today.
All right.
I'll bring some whiskey.
That'll be good. We'll do an Irish breakfast here. All right. So, let's see if members of the community have any questions or comments. There was, Norman Gold sent me a question, in the chat asking, is there any talk about getting a clock in both the gym area and the main area? First, I've heard of that idea. Sounds very reasonable. I didn't even think of it.
A clock,
Clock?
Yeah.
Yeah,
don't you have one?
I know, but people are on the wall, I guess, and they don't have their phone on them, so makes sense.
Like just digital design.
Yeah.
I take it to mean just, a standard analog wall clock. But
Where's he going? I'm sorry.
I don't know.
It's just
we'll
like
ask
when you're in the
Michael.
pool, you know how you have the big clock that
Yeah,
you like
yeah,
look
yeah.
over, it's like kind of the same philosophy,
Yeah.
right? You're
Okay.
playing, yeah,
All right, we'll ask Michael to look into that. All right, Michael? Thank you. All right, anybody else on the Zoom? We have no members in the boardroom. May the record reflect. And anybody on Zoom want to unmute? Don't even worry about raising hand, just unmute and fire away. Going once, going twice. All right, thank you, everybody. The board's gonna hang around really quick for a very short executive session, and then we'll be done. So we'll see everybody on March 17th. Oh, yeah, stop recording.